What's up everybody and welcome to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to compare two really cool tools that you might want to add to your workflow. They are both very useful in eliminating reverb in a room, whether you're doing post-production work on film, television, an indie project of your own, if you're working on music production and maybe you recorded in a room that's not treated with a complete, a completely dead room, so they would say, with no room reverb. These will be really useful in your workflow. One is called D-Verb Pro. They come in, there's a few different versions. I have the Pro version here. And also Izotope RX has two really cool tools that do the same thing. One is meant specifically for dialogue, called Dialogue D-Reverb. And there's also a just standard D-Reverb. So I will be comparing both of these, and hopefully after this video it'll kind of help you in making your decision. So I'm not sponsored by either one of these programs. I just thought it was really useful, and it took a while for me to find something like this that can help in my workflow. So maybe this will do the same for you. So I'll play a demo of a recording first, and of course this is an extreme example with a lot of reverb in this recording, which you'll hear immediately. And I'll kind of play around with both programs and see what they can do and how they differ. Here we go. First up is DeRoom Pro by Accentize, I believe is how you pronounce the name there. And again, there's a Pro version and one that just comes with a few less features here. So let's play the audio.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time for this urgent call. I was informed only yesterday that we should participate in a conference that's going.
So as you can hear, it's recorded in a room with a lot of reverb, or in a hallway. It's an exaggerated piece. So we'll see what this thing does. So the default settings, I'll just set that currently. So we just have the stock settings when you start off. Looks like this. And I'll turn the sensitivity all the way down.
I've already shared my screen with you, so you can see all the requirements in this document. Let's give priority to all these tasks.
So I'm slowly turning up the reduction. You can hear it starting to affect it. I can adjust the sensitivity, indicating how much of this effect will apply. Essentially it's a threshold level. If you're working with like compression, it's similar to that. So as I turn up the sensitivity, it's detecting more reverb. So I'll start this over again.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time for this urgent call. I was informed only yesterday that we should participate in a conference that's coming up next month. I've already shared my screen with you, so
I'm going to dial this back.
Let's give priority to all these tasks as we will.
And I'll have to play around with the attack and release times.
Some ideas for our presentation and booth, and then divide responsibilities. Sorry.
And a cool feature I like about this one is there's actually like a preview button that you can toggle on and off of the before and after. They call it a difference. So let me play this. So you're hearing just what's removed only.
I was informed only yesterday that we should participate in a conference that's coming up next month. I've already shared my screen with you, so you can see all the requirements in this document. Let's give priority.
So I'll have to play around with these attack times. There's a few different other settings in there. You can bypass it within the plugin itself.
Now, how about we discuss some ideas for our
within the settings, there's a few different options, different algorithms they offer.
And then divide responsibilities.
You have a low latency mode, high precision mode.
I was informed only yesterday that
if I toggle this off, if I toggle that off by default, then there's an option to choose a room size.
I've already shared my screen with you, so you can see.
Playing around with this, and like to me, it just sounds like leaving the default Pro algorithm on works best though.
Let's give priority to all these tasks as we have little time left.
You can change the size of your UI, which is interesting. I don't really use that too much. Move this up.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time.
I guess if you have the screen real estate to do that, then go for it. Another cool feature with this is within the spectral focus. So you can actually select the range of these things. So in conjunction with like your difference meter, which is like a solo button of just the reverb and soloing the sections, you can really dial in what part of the recording has the reverb. So let me do that now. So now I'm hearing just the reverb in just the high frequency range. and I can adjust these independently. So these settings do not affect any of the other sections, which is really cool. So I can adjust the sensitivity. Maybe I want that, you know, less reduction, a faster release, faster attack on the high end.
How about we discuss some ideas for our presentation and then divide responsibilities?
I can do the same for the bass. Maybe I'll have it just like how I would EQ anything else. I'll have like a slow release on the bass, maybe a slower attack also. So it has this other cool feature, which is a makeup gain knob here. So if I turn this up, I can boost it to kind of make up the difference of what's lost. So I'm giving it a 9 decibel boost because I've cut so much.
Let's give priority to all these tasks as we have little time left to prepare. Now, how about
Now, one thing I wish it had was like an overall mix knob. That would have been amazing to have. Just like a, you know, you can blend it a little better. Because if there was that, I could just reduce it by a certain amount, but it doesn't really have that as an option. There's a spectral view,
some ideas for our presentation?
just like you would see in Adobe Audition or in Izotope. The spectral view kind of gives you an idea of the frequency range. The lower bassy sounds are going to be at the bottom. The higher frequencies are near the top. Same concept within this view itself too.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time for this urgent call.
So I can see a lot of it's like in the lower mid area, and that will kind of help me dial in where I want to affect. I'm hearing that like it's a wavy kind of bounciness to it. It's like the equivalent of like over compression. So I'll dial back this reduction.
How about we discuss some ideas for our presentation and booth, and then divide responsibilities?
And I'll hit the before and after. So it's the before.
I was informed only yesterday that we should participate in a conference that's coming up next month.
After.
I've already shared my screen with you, so you can see all the...
Is it perfect? No, but it's significantly better. I can also apply this real fast since I'm using this in Adobe Audition, so I can hit the before and after. I'll just select my audio, and I'll do this in the spectral view so you can also see what's happening here. So I'll press apply. You'll see these waveforms kind of change a little bit. The color will change as it's doing what it's doing under the hood with the algorithm and reducing it that way. You can see the before and the after. Now, if I undo that and use a different setting, so if I use DeRoom, it's essentially similar to what we saw before with the algorithm options and just a basic sensitivity option and reduction option with the makeup knob. But the Pro version has that as an option we can choose from as well that comes in the default window.
I was informed
The only difference with this, it has an attack option there.
yesterday that we should participate in a conference that's coming up next month.
So I can do essentially the same thing. It's just I can't fine tune what frequencies I want to affect this way. So I'll just apply that so we can see again, and the waveform will change in the spectral view. And again, it cleaned up quite a bit of that reverb.
I was informed only yesterday that we should participate.
It's a perfect again, but it's quite a drastic difference.
I was informed only yesterday.
And Adobe Audition also has this built into it. If you use Adobe Audition, you can use this particular plugin with any DAW that you're using, as long as it uses VSTs. But they have one built into this as well. What is it called? I think it's called D-Verb too. There you go. So they have one that's here by default.
And thanks for making time for this urgent call.
If I turn up the frequency, or sorry, the amount. So this you can specify a frequency range, kind of how the DeRoom Pro does, but you have less control over which area to affect. It's just kind of a broad selection here. So this is like your all the frequencies, your lower frequencies, mid-range.
Now, how about we discuss some ideas for our presentation and booth, and then divide
higher frequencies. So I'll apply this. You can hear the before and after as well.
I was informed only yesterday that we should participate in a conference.
But you don't have as much control, where I can dial it in a lot more with the DeRoom other plugin there. So let's hop over to RX and kind of compare that one. There we go. So now we're in RX, and this has two plugins that give you the similar effect. One's specific for dialogue, and one's overall usage here. So I tend to get a better result with the one closer to the dialogue. I should say it's a more subtle result, I should specify. So I'll start with that one first. So let's do the dialogue D-Reverb. This is meant specifically for dialogue cleanup.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time.
So we'll use an extreme setting they have on here. You can kind of dial this in again. You have a sensitivity knob. You can say how much reduction you want, if you want it subtle, if you want to remove it completely. Ambient preservation allows you to keep some of the natural tones of the room in there. I'm going to just do this really extreme so we can kind of hear what this can do to its extreme. And I'll say render. This might take a minute to do. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to hear how the various algorithms work, especially with their dialogue versus the general room cleanup. With the room D-Reverb, you can actually program it to learn from a small section of the audio and then apply the D-Reverb so it kind of knows what to look for. I'm assuming it's using all kinds of really intense machine learning and thousands of examples of reverb to kind of learn from. Versus this has an algorithm specific for just vocals and dialogue to look for. And you can adjust the different reverbs, the different algorithms that it's applying. So you can see there's a significant drop in the volume level of my waveform there. And I wish there was like a makeup gain option on here, but they don't have that. So let's just hear this. So let me bring the gain up manually by adding a point here.
Thanks for making time for this urgent call. I was informed yesterday that we should participate in a
Okay, so that's an extreme example. So let's try to just keep it to its general reduction, or the extreme minus all the extra that I added there. So I'll go back to the default settings. Let's do general. I'll select render and let's take a listen. So again, this is the general setting. So it reduced quite a lot. You see the waveform drop down significantly there. So let's take a listen.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time for this urgent call. I was informed only.
So this doesn't have really like a preview of before and after. You kind of have to go back in the history by clicking on the previous layer. So I can hear the before.
I was informed only yesterday that we should participate in a conference that's coming up next month. I've already shared my screen with you, so you can see all the requirements in this document. Let's give priority to all these tasks, as we have little time left.
And there's a lot of other room noise you can hear in there, like a fan going on in the background. So let me zoom out again and select my audio. And now with this one, I have to train it to learn what the audio is, and it can kind of decipher which algorithm to use. I should show you which ones have. So yeah, there are 3 different options here that you can choose from in the dialogue. This, you don't have that as an option to choose which one. It just learns from it. So let's play from the beginning. So now that it knows what the D-Reverb algorithm it should use, it detected it's kind of a longer reverb. If it's a short one, you'll see this line will move to the left as it's a shorter tail, reverb tail. So let's preview this.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time for this first call.
Adjust the reduction.
I was informed only yesterday that we should.
If I crank it all the way up, it gets really bad. Like you can hear there's a lot of artifacts.
I've already shared my screen with you, so you can see all the requirements in this document. Let's get
bypass it.
all these tasks as we have little time left to prepare. Now, how about we discuss some ideas for our presentation and booth, and then divide.
What I do like, again, this has an option to frequency, the frequency range, a low, mid, high, or mid-high and high. I don't like that you can adjust which frequency this is affecting. So basically moving it up, it increases, think of it like a sensitivity knob. So the more I bring it up, the more of that frequency it's going to detect or look for or allow in. It's like a threshold knob there. Artifact smoothing, it's essentially the ambient preservation kind of thing. It's working under the hood and trying to make it so it's not so many artifacts that you hear. Enhanced dry signal will do just that. It'll try to find within that recording any frequencies that aren't super reverb heavy and amplify those. So it's going to scan through that audio file, listen See, the numbers kind of changed a little bit. So it's saying in this section, the reverb isn't quite the same as this section. So sometimes it actually works better to kind of go smaller in smaller pieces to get a more accurate edit. So I'm going to play this again.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time for this urgent call. I was informed only yesterday that we should participate in a conference.
I'll reduce it by like 8 decibels, and I'll select render. So because this has this enhanced dry signal, you'll actually see the audio file get larger sometimes in your edits. So let me do the before and after so you can kind of hear.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time for this urgent call. I was informed only yesterday that we should participate in a conference that's coming up next month. I've already shared my screen with you so you can see all the requirements in this document.
So again, there's other noises in there, but we're focused on the reverb for now. And I'll do the second section under the dialogue de-reverb so we can kind of hear how it compares. And I'll do the extreme reduction setting on that. I won't fiddle with anything else. Let me just go back to the default and do it again. So this one, it's not learning from what the actual recording has. It's just applying from a bunch of pre-learned understanding of what reverb can sound like. So because it has no gain makeup, I'll have to do that manually. So let's kind of guesstimate here. That looks close enough. All right, so let's play from the beginning. So this section will be the de-reverb that's just focused on a general reduction, and this is meant specifically for dialogue. So here we go.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time.
And let me get rid of that distortion because that is very distracting. So I have a declipper in here that works pretty good. So I'll bring that down a little bit. There we go.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time for this urgent call. I was informed only yesterday that we should participate in a conference that's coming up next month. I've already shared my screen with you so you can see all the requirements in this document. Let's give priority to all these tasks as we have little time left to prepare. Now, how about we discuss some ideas for our presentation booth and then divide responsibilities.
So I'm hearing quite a difference between the two here.
So you can see all the requirements. Some ideas for our presentation booth.
Because I can't fine tune this one to eliminate specific frequencies, like on the high mids or the high frequencies, it seems a lot more sibilant.
Some ideas for our presentation booth and then divide responsibility.
All the S's are really sharp.
That we should participate in a conference that's coming up next month. I've already shared.
And because this is learned specifically from this recording, it seems a lot more accurate in reduction, at least to my ear. Again, there are other noises in there that are a little distracting, but I'm trying to just focus on the reverb.
I'm going to screen with you so you can see all the requirements in the presentation booth and then divide responsibilities.
There's a lot more background noise that was picked up.
As we have little time left to prepare. Thanks for making time for this urgent call. I was informed only yesterday.
This one has a lot less. And we can go back to our de-reverb example here in the original.
Yesterday that we should participate in a conference that's coming.
This was from Adobe Auditions.
Participate in a conference that's coming up next month.
Does actually a pretty good job.
Only yesterday that we should.
And then we can use the DeRoom Pro to compare. So let's be able to fine tune this a little bit.
I was informed only yesterday that we should participate in a
Again, I really wish there was like a mix knob here.
That's coming up next month.
I keep hearing this like phasing noise. You can kind of hear the waveform kind of doing this motion.
All these tasks.
It's because the attack and release time will be dialed in a little bit and how the algorithm's working.
Now, how about we discuss some ideas for our presentation?
So if I make the attack slow
and
the release slow.
And then divide responsibilities.
So for me, to my ear, again, playing around with these frequencies will kind of help a lot more too, though.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time for this.
It's interesting because I'm hearing a lot less artifacts, but it has this weird little phasey noise, just how that algorithm works, versus the RX de-reverb. So in conjunction, I would use like this, and then like a dialogue isolate, perhaps, to really pinpoint just the the voice, and if you have a sample of the background noise, I would use a noise reduction to kind of clean it up even more. But I wanted to compare the two. So what do you all think? Let me know in the comments. Like, I tried to be pretty fair with both of these, playing around with the various settings they have. This doesn't come with any presets other than just the different algorithms you can choose from. Yeah, I think changing the setting around actually made a little difference.
As we have a little time left to prepare.
Keeping it like a large room size.
My ideas for our presentation and booth, and then divide responsibilities.
It doesn't sound like it's having that phasey noise as much.
Sorry for the short notice, and thanks for making time for this urgent call. I was informed only yesterday that we should participate in a conference that's coming up next month. I've already shared my screen with you, so you can see all the requirements in this document. Let's give priority to all these tasks, as we have little time left to prepare. Now, how about we discuss some ideas for our presentation and booth, and then divide.
Yeah, what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and I will post some more content soon.